Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, world? Welcome to the Second Chance Live show. I'm your host, Daryl Stinson. I'm a former D1 athlete and a suicide survivor who now spends his life as a mental health advocate and founder of Second Chance Athletes. And you are tuning in for an amazing episode today. I'm so excited. We're interviewing Kelly Lynn Adams. How you doing today, Kelly?
Good, Daryl. I'm so excited to be here.
Dude, is that an accent I hear in your voice?
Oh, maybe.
I didn't catch that. Where are you from?
Jersey, New York.
Jersey. That is exactly what that is. I knew it. I was like, I hear something different in there. So this is going to be extra fun. I did not know you were a Jersey girl.
Yes. Born and raised.
We might have to ask you some questions about Jersey because I've heard some things. I've never been to Jersey, believe it or not. I've just heard some things.
Okay.
Anyways, y'all, we are talking about how to get out of your own way. You know, mindset limits our effectiveness, our success. It chokes out our dreams. Like if you don't have the mind to achieve, you just won't achieve. And it's something that's new to me. I knew it as an athlete, but I just thought that I could survive off of pure willpower. But if you don't have the mindset for it, like you won't be able to see the results in your life. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to read her official bio, but can I tell you right now on the front end, she's an expert. She's awesome. You know how our guests are. They are amazing in all different types of realms. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. So here's what you can do. You can click the share button and share with your friends, your family, your social media stalkers, and let them know that this is a conversation that they need to tune into. Matter of fact, drop it in the comments if you feel like you know somebody who needs to get out of their own way. Unless they're sitting right next to you, don't do that. I don't want to start any marriage problems. I am going to read her official bio, and then we are going to get in this conversation. And as I read her bio, here's what I want you to be thinking about. Who in your network needs to learn from her wisdom? She has agreed to share generously, and you know what we ask, that you share generously in return, because a rising tide raises all ships. So if you've been watching the show, you already know that's what we say. Here we go. Kelly Lynn Adams is a certified executive leadership and life coach, speaker, and director of the Perfectly Imperfect podcast. How many of you love that title? Perfectly Imperfect. I love that. She's also the founder of Women Work Worth movement, which has helped hundreds of high achieving women manage their mindset, maximize their time, and monetize in their business. I see what you did there, the WWW and the MMM. I see it. You got a little wordsmith going on. Kelly Lynn has spent over 14 plus years in corporate America working for some of the top retail and fashion brands in the world like Gucci, DKNY, Kenneth and Bed Bath & Beyond. Her mission is to help others get out of their own way, which is what we're talking about today, so they can grow and thrive by creating transformation, impact, and influence through mindset training and managing stress. I know some of y'all are dealing with stress. I've heard it. I've seen it on the news. I've seen it on your time feed. So we're going to talk about that as well. She also helps people to redefine success through shifting their thoughts, increasing their confidence, stepping into their power, and supersizing their self-love. Now you did it with the S's. This is good. Kelly Lynn's transformational coaching, speaking success seekers are often sought out by media. She has been featured on Forbes, ABC, CBS, Fox, like you know it. So you can find her on Twitter, Instagram. We're going to talk about all the stuff where you can find her. I'll flash it on the screen for you. But for now, I'm done yapping. Y'all show her some love. Say what's up in the comments. And Kelly, let us know what's not in your bio.
Well, first of all, Daryl, I am honored, truly honored to be here. You are doing incredible work. You just I am so thrilled to be on here. I've been watching you. I've been stalking you. And I just think your mission and the work that you're doing in the world is so needed and so powerful, and your story is so powerful. So I just really want to acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing. It's so needed. So thank you.
Send me your Cash App and I'll take care.
Yeah, so it's not in my bio. I mean, born and raised Jersey girl, like you said. What else? I mean, all the messy stuff is not in my bio.
Yeah, give us some of that.
Yeah, so the messy stuff, growing up, I had a speech impediment. I was really shy, believe it or not.
Right. You shy?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Don't be lying on my episode now. You were shy. Why were you shy? Why were you shy?
Why was I shy?
Yeah.
Maybe it was because, and I'm learning this because I'm still also healing it, because I'm also still stepping into my power and my voice and really owning and taking up space. I think it was the whole, it boils down to the I'm not worthy. Am I capable? I'm going to say the wrong thing. Am I going to look a certain way? And then kind of, as I got older, it also, is my reputation going to be tarnished? Am I going to look like, a failure? All of that stuff, all of those conversations that come up. And that's why I started the podcast of Perfectly Imperfect, because I was in the fashion industry, and that, in some companies that was very prevalent too, like your image and how you carry yourself and all of that. And even, still in the entrepreneurial world, like personal branding, what you say, what you represent. Yeah. So it's still there in any profession that you go in, right? There's that element of, how am I going to sound? How am I going to look? How are people going to, what are people going to think of me? And, so that showed up a lot in my life, still does today. So yeah, that's the mess. I was, and then also like, I'm a recovering perfectionist, burnt out, landed in the ER because I was working so hard, and I had boundaries,
Okay. Yes, this is going to be amazing. I can tell. By the way, thank you for your transparency. If you see this thing down here that says it's time to do the deal on the screen, don't get alarmed. Just know that it means we're getting ready to either go really, really deep or in the complete wrong direction. So just trust me. I'm your tour guide. I won't lead you down the road and let you run off a cliff. But here's what I was thinking of. Okay, so what do you feel was driving this need for success to the point where you were hospitalized? Like what was driving that? What were you after?
So from a deep core perspective, I was seeking validation, acknowledgement, in also like how I was seen, like wanting that approval, wanting to be loved, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. And the more I worked, it was like my productivity, my worth was all wrapped in one. And so I think there's certain elements, that some entrepreneurs or very successful people in the world have that, right? They want to be successful because there's a fear of never going back to maybe, their old life, or not having the money or not having all the accolades. And, it's also wanting that validation, it's the ego. It's stroking that ego. Yeah.
Man, I got so many questions now because the speech impediment thing is something that, I don't know if I had one, but I know I definitely have some issues. And when you are trying to live up to what you think you should be, it creates these deep-rooted insecurities. I'm curious, like how you were able to overcome some of the looks that come with having a speech impediment.
Yeah, so I had a speech pathologist, and they would help me with the actual words. So it was years in the making, and then the years of the unraveling. And that's why, I was really shy, because I didn't want to speak and have something also come out the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I think there was no kind of overnight. It was just, from what I remember, I just kept practicing and putting myself out there. And it came also with confidence, like other things that I would do to also build my confidence in, how I was speaking. Yeah. So I think it was a little bit of everything, like as I was growing up.
Interesting. Really interesting. So last question, that's kind of like a backwards before we go forwards, but this whole concept of chasing approval through external success is something that I know a lot of people struggle with, trying to earn love and earn affection and earn like I don't know, friends, and to feel valued and like they belong by achieving. And I'm curious for you, like, where did that come from? Did you have a terrible upbringing? Did you not get it from parents? Was it like peers? I'm curious, where did the hole come from that you were trying to fill?
Yeah, I mean, I think it came from all different directions. You know, my parents were divorced when I was younger, so maybe seeking some of that approval as well from both parents. You know, from friends. You know, trying to fit into those, you know, those groups, the popular groups. For me, I think it was all kind of all different angles that it came from, and you know, it even stemmed like, you know, I was making a good income, you know, carrying around these handbags and all the best clothes. And meanwhile, I was in like 40 plus $1,000 of debt. Like, so it came with all of that stuff. And then also I remember, you know, when I first made like my first 6 figures, there was a point where I was really struggling financially. And I
That
actually,
doesn't even make sense. Do you hear what you just said? When I made my first 6 figures, I was really struggling financially. It's like,
well, so I'll explain, right? Because I
yeah,
was spending more than I was earning. And, you know, I just recently shared this where, you know, at one point I was living off credit cards. And, you know, I remember one time like going food shopping and praying that I had enough money on my credit card to buy my food. And, you know,
wow.
so there's a lot of that stuff that people, you know, either they hide behind it or they don't want to see it or they don't want to feel ashamed of it. And you know, it's real. It's the mess. It's and I'm also stepping more into that, right, and sharing it because some of the stuff I haven't shared publicly, you know, and really I think for me, and it's not true for everyone, but when you I did a video on this the other day. It's like when we bring our darkness into the light, it gives others permission to, okay, like either feel a sense of, oh, okay, that's me too, or some
Yeah.
kind of version happened like that to me, or
Mhm.
some kind of like, exhale and breath, because we all have a mess, you know, whether we decide to live it out publicly or privately. But I will say this, a lot of my sufferings happened in silence. So also being aware, right, that we don't have to suffer in silence, you know, and I think that's really important because for a long time, you know, I was suffering in silence and I would just keep quiet about a lot of things.
Was it just like you were embarrassed that if you came out and was being vulnerable that you were going to be rejected or excluded?
That, but also like, what would people think of me?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy, man? People's opinions have so much weight, and we give their opinions more weight than we give our own. And it's so terrible. Is that something like, is working for some of those big brands sort of like working in Hollywood? Is there a lot of that goes on where there's a lot of external drivenness and success, but not a lot of good self-care?
I would say like yes and no, right? I think it comes down to a personal um you know, agenda, right? Because you're going to have those big companies, but then you're going to have, right, the 7, the 8, the 9-figure entrepreneurs as well. And I think it comes down to I like to say like all of that external stuff, it's always going around, whether brand, whatever world you're living in. And it also has to come from within. So for me, you know, how I healed a lot of that and still do today, you know, I do mirror work where I look in the mirror, look in my own eyes and say the affirmations like I'm worthy, I'm capable. And some days, you know, it's harder than others, you know, I'll be crying, and doing also like the boundary work, right?
Mhm.
Boundary on my own boundaries. Like, how long am I staying on Clubhouse, right? Because I'll tell you something. When Clubhouse first came out, like I went back into my old ways of like going into every room and staying up late. And you know, like, I was like, oh my gosh, Kelly, like my old habits can trigger, you know, it can come back in a second.
Mhm.
So I think it's also being aware of like where your old default things come up,
Yeah.
and because they're always going to come up, right? I mean, we can heal them, but it's kind of like taking a shower and brushing your teeth. I think the work is also, you know, a daily practice too. So setting my boundaries with myself, mirror work, surrounding myself with like-minded people who are either, you know, more successful than me or can hold the container and hold me in a space. So, you know, hiring a coach, getting a mentor. So all of those things, I don't think there's one thing. I think it's a combination of different things that'll work for you because you're always going to have those external circumstances that will trigger you.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's try to hit the fast forward button here. So you burned out
Yeah.
and what happened? Like, how did you go from a place of burnout to now being an executive coach and like,
Yeah.
Having better habits other than Clubhouse? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So I would say, the burnout, it took me about I think it was 2.5 months where all I was doing was sleeping, eating, and sleeping and eating like that. I was like bedridden. So now, I just am very aware, and I also in coaching, because this is the thing with coaching and speaking, right? You can't take people where you haven't gone. So I'm constantly working on myself, the unlearning. So when I'm coaching, these high-powered executives or even lifestyle coaching with people, it's so funny because my clients will have some version of what I healed, right? Or either what I'm currently going through. It's beautiful. But I think with the burnout, like how I kind of overcame that. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. So it's a success story, and I would say I'm still a work in progress, so, and I'm still building, I also want more, and I'm unapologetic about it, because, I know the more money I get and the more power I have, I'm going to utilize that for good, right?
Yeah.
To advocate for other people, to help other people. So that's kind of my stance, is still a work in progress. I'm always building, and just taking, anything I learn to also implement that and take it into action. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the burnout is real because it can happen again. It can happen again, but I don't want to make the second or third mistake, and just land up where I was. So I think there's a lot of just awareness, today. Now I think I have more awareness than I did even, 6 months ago.
Yeah, I love it. Let's get into the main course meal of getting out of our own way.
Yeah.
I'm always looking when I bring guests on, there's usually two type of guests that come on this show. There is the former athlete who has this transition story and it's powerful and they've been through it. And then there's the person who just can speak into that community. And I think getting out of our own way is so important for our athlete audience and for our general audience as well, because there's so much that I see. And I'm thinking about my own journey as well. When I review the times where I was really stuck, it was really me, and I kept trying to learn and do, and it came down to a mindset for me. So I'm curious, where did you notice that you were getting in your own way in terms of what you wanted out of life?
Yeah, I was holding myself back, not betting on myself, thinking it was all about me. And then also I wasn't aware of how many things I've done and accomplished. So those are kind of my tips. If something is about me, I know it's not, I have to take a step back and be okay, what is the intention? Why am I doing this? Is it to serve someone else, or is it for my own ego? Right. So not, getting out of your own way requires it not being about you. Yes, you want to make money. I mean, you have to also be your own asset. I'm not saying be Mother Teresa and leave yourself at the back door, right? That is not advocating for yourself is first and foremost. It's the whole airplane theory, put the mask on yourself first, yada, yada. So that's one thing, is being of service, serving yourself first, but also then whatever you're doing, are you of service to others? And that Clubhouse is such a great, aspect of that, right? Just giving away information, but also kind of, setting the boundaries to that too, right? And maybe monetizing off it. Second is, I wasn't realizing all my successes. So writing a bio, or what did I achieve? So I call it the success list. Really, what are you proud of? What are you that's me, because I have to look at this list on a daily basis to remind myself, when you were reading my bio, I'm oh yeah, so.
Oh, pretty awesome. Read it again.
Yeah, pretty awesome. It's being your biggest fan, being your biggest fan, and the biggest advocate for yourself, because other people can bring you up. But if you're not your biggest advocate of yourself, No one is. So
Right.
I would say be your biggest fan. That is huge. I still look at my success lists and all of that every day. And then the third thing I would say is boundaries, 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 boundaries on all levels, spiritual, emotional, physical, mental. If something's draining you, you are allowed, you have permission to step away. You are allowed to take a day off for no reason. And just being really, aware of what boundaries need to be in place. And sometimes it's the people around you, right? You have to change relationships and change circles. And that's not an easy thing to do all the time.
Well, I love it. I love it. I want you to talk about your clients, and typically, and I know for me, for anyone, like I've learned that in coaching, you tend to attract people who are in the same like kind of vein, right? Like, so for me, when I coach speakers, it's like I'm capturing a certain type of people. Like, it's like funny, they're all in the same circumstance. It's like attraction or whatever. But I'm curious, what are some stories about, like, where do they start and how are you able to help them shift and achieve whatever they come to you for?
Yeah. So I'll share like maybe 2 or 3 stories. I seem to attract obviously the high performers, right? That's how I market myself. And some of my clients work for the most amazing companies like Amazon, Google, biotech, science, companies, like really go-getters and executives. And what I have found in some of the sessions that I'm doing with them, it's the same thing. Like I just said, it's like, you don't realize that, oh, okay, they're working for Google and Amazon. Like they have it all together. Or, they're working for the biggest biotech or tech firm, in the world. Or maybe they're helping with the COVID-19, so it's the same thing, like the burnout, the how to separate the work and the life balance. That has been huge since COVID, a huge overall theme. Another thing is also like the reputation, like them not speaking up or speaking out of what they're actually seeing or what they feel, how to share authentically, because they are worried about their reputation.
Right.
They're worried about, being authentic in this kind of mold that they have in the workplace. And then also the whole imposter syndrome, thing of being
Talk
like,
about it.
yeah.
Talk about it. Let's talk, man. Let's camp there. And matter of fact, guys, you can look forward to this. So I've heard this come up so much in Clubhouse that I was just like, I'm doing some content around this because I didn't know. I mean, I knew I struggled with it, but I didn't know it was like everybody kind of struggles with it. So like, man, speak to imposter syndrome, and like, what's your advice for how people can overcome that?
Yeah. So I think, for me, the way I see imposter syndrome is not feeling like you're confident or you have enough information to go share or teach or speak on something, right? And again, like in Clubhouse, it's like, oh, all these moderators, like, am I even good enough to be a moderator? And it's like, yeah, like you've gotten up to this point, you can talk and share about something that you know.
Yeah.
And not everyone has to be a quote unquote, New York Times bestseller per se. And I think a lot of people, they future trip, right? Or it's the comparison thing. It's a whole lot of things in one kind of, this quote or this label, imposter syndrome. So for me, it comes back to that like accomplishment success list, like making all of those, like what have you overcome? Up to this point, everyone has overcome something, an emotional thing, an accomplishment. And some people, they're so used to looking at everyone else and everyone else's accomplishments, like, reading people's bios and seeing them right out and doing interviews. It's like they don't spend enough time on what they have accomplished. So and some of these stories, I hear are powerful, and it's like, oh my gosh, why aren't you sharing that? So I think it comes back to, again, self, really stepping into your power and knowing that you being born, you being right in this moment, it took a lot for you to get here.
Yeah.
Right. To get here, to be born first, and then to overcome like all of the stuff up to this point. Right. We survived 2020. you survived COVID. I mean, just those are two, right? But there's so many things that other people have survived and overcome. And I think it's tapping back into that and just recognizing all of those gifts that you already have.
Yeah.
And then being like, no, like, and then also taking action. Like there's one thing where you can make the list, you can, meditate on it and do all that stuff. And what I say is like, confidence comes from action, imperfect action. And so when you take imperfect action and you're consistent, it creates momentum and that builds the muscle, kind of like working out, right? You train. I mean, that's how Olympians get to be Olympians. It's imperfect action, failing forward.
I love it. Talk about this concept of leveling up, right? I know like one of the hardest things to do is to level up. And I remember like even it doesn't matter what it is. Like if the mountain seems too big to climb, it will be, right? And I'll never forget like what my first paid speaking engagement was $500. All right. And then I remember when I was first trying to charge $5, and I was like, I couldn't even get the word out of my mouth. And then when I raised it to 10, it was like, I remember I was just telling my wife, Brittany, I was like, when I told somebody my price was 10, I had to sit on my hands to not mess this thing up, because it's like your old brain is just like trying to choke this out. So I'd love for you to talk about like the progression of charging what you're worth, becoming a 6-7 figure entrepreneur. And what's my question, Daryl? Like how can someone level up their mindset?
Yeah. So first, get yourself in those circles and those groups of people, right, that are making more than you, like 10x what you're making, the big ballers, the big players. And I don't want you to get in there and compare yourself, but be around that energy, because there's something when you hang around with people that are, doing what you want to do, there's an energy, there's a vibe, there's, you're swimming in the same pool, in the same environment. So I think environment is 100% important. It's critical. And even like getting a coach or being in a community, huge, because you're also not going to see your blind spots, right? So other people can point them out, coaches, mentors, they can point that out. So I think environment is huge. And then also what I like to say about pricing, because, it's such a, when you said you had to sit on your hands, right? It's the same with like even high ticket coaching. Yeah. Right? When you say the investment, you be quiet, right? You let it land, right? So people can you let it land. And especially when, you're closing the high ticket coaching clients, it's like, we have the need to say something, to interject, right? It's like, nope, like sit on your hands, shut your mouth, like let it land, right? And I will say this about pricing. A lot of people struggle with pricing. I'm not a pricing expert, but this is what has helped with me and my pricing. You have to feel aligned with the price, like inside. Mm-hmm. I would say go with the price, right? And then when you start to feel resentment, that's the time that you need to raise your price, right? And whether that means 10% more or doubling it or whatever, it's also like a personal thing, right? Because I know I've gotten in comparison mode where I'm saying, oh, well, he's charging this or she's charging that, and that's what I should be charging because I have the experience. And it's like you have to feel aligned, because the price, people feel it. People, and I will say this with pricing too, especially with the coaches, service providers, the pricing is indicative of all of the work that you have done, right? And all the investments that you have done, all the knowledge that you have done, they're paying for that knowledge. They're paying for the transformation, and they're paying for that, right? So it's an experience. And that's how I think about pricing, is all of the training, all the certifications, all of my life experience that I know I can help people with, and the transformation that I create for people. And they also have to be willing to play their game, right? Because coaching is like a 50-50. Both parties have to be committed to the outcome, right? And the alignment. So it's it's a personal process, and just say it's like all your education and all your experience. And it comes down to that confidence thing,
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I agree with what you're saying. I do. I just know for some people, it's the hardest thing to figure out what is it really worth. And one of the things that my one of my mentors taught me was what's the cost of them not investing? Like
Yeah.
what are they gonna lose by making the same mistakes that you've made in your past? Like how much time are they gonna lose? How are their relationships gonna suffer? Because they're investing in that change too. So, okay, I wanted to ask you about all this stuff you got going on. The After Five Club, you got the women's thing, you've got executive coaching, you're in the media. Like number one, like what is the After Five Club and the women's thing, and then
Yeah.
how do you keep it all running and operating?
That's a good question. I have a lot going on. So the After Five Club, so that was a movement I first started when I first started, coaching, and I was coaching like side hustlers. That was my niche. So I was helping women specifically, how to manage that, how to juggle it, how to build a business, how to have a side hustle. That kind of, morphed into this whole other movement called Women Work and Worth, where, it's a still same thing I'm teaching, just packaged in a different way. So it's a movement of sorts. But basically, how I help people is just the one-on-one coaching and the groups. And I'm going to be, scaling also this year because there's so many people that are coming at me. And so this year is going to look really fun. Kind of announcing some things coming up in the next couple of weeks. But
Dang, cliffhanger. You can't do that to us. Cliffhanger on the episode. Man, people are like, what? Drop the bomb. We want to know.
But
Okay.
that's not, so I do, a free Facebook community. And, I'm on social media. I have the podcast. I'm not monetizing on the podcast though, because it's just a fun thing for me. And I know I'm leaving so much money on the table. But again, like that's another thing, right? See where sometimes you may not be monetizing in certain areas of your life and being okay with it because you're monetizing in others, right? So the podcast for me was just fun. And, podcast, community of people, and then the speaking, so I speak, to different organizations and
I'm stressed right now just listening to you. So like, I mean, what habits do you have that enable you to run at that pace?
yeah.
And do you have a team that supports you?
Yeah.
Like, speak to how you are able to manage your brand.
Yeah. So myself is like, I have the morning routine. I take care of myself, the whole like eating, the moving the body, like the drinking of the water, all of that. It's like a non-negotiable for me.
Mhm.
And then also I do have help. So I do have a team for like the admin stuff. So I have a VA, I have an assistant. So and then that's the thing is I didn't hire, I wish I hired sooner because I was bootstrapping it when I first started out. And it's fine because some people, may not have the funds, but with things like Fiverr and Upwork, like it's so reasonable that I will just say like, if you don't have, money to hire like an assistant or a VA or like a retainer type person, hire out like those $10 tasks, right? Those tasks that are costing you $10 or lower. So that's how I kind of really figured it out. So I'll tell you a funny story, how I first hired my VA. I was like, I'm going to play a game with this to see if it's worth it. So I had cleaning people. I'm like, I'm going to get a cleaning person to come in, clean my place. And while they're cleaning my place, I'm going to see how much work I can get done. So the cleaning person came in. I got 3 hours of work done. I was like, you know what? That's so worth it. I'm hiring a cleaning person, right? So it's the little things of where those tasks are not in your zone of genius, or that someone that you can pay $10, $20, $50 for, or under $100 to outsource it like ASAP.
Mm. I like that. That just caused me. Did I do that? What did I do? That just caused me to think of something because I started to think when you were talking about hiring and VA work and Fiverr and Task and all that about small businesses and the rise since COVID of people launching at-home businesses, launching into entrepreneurship, online coaches, people are finally writing their books and doing their podcasts and becoming content creators like they should have been doing a long time ago. And I know like it's a struggle for some people just to get traction. And one of the things I created to help was like this program called 7 days to land your first client. Because to me, once you get that first client, it's like your confidence builds, like you actually got proof of concept, you got a referral base, you can like drag that out forever, and keep telling that transformation story. And it builds momentum, right? So it's like real hard to push that boulder up the hill, but then that first client is just like rolling down from there. So I'm wondering, like, what's your advice for those startup entrepreneurs who are watching this and they're just trying to like get that first client, like get their business running so they can finally like do what they love full time? What's your advice to small business owners?
Well, I'll plug your course, right? Get your course, get Daryl's course, because you created something for that. And I will say this, for me, it was just consistent action. Even when you didn't, you don't get the replies or you don't feel like anything's working, trust me, it is. And I'll share a story with my podcast. I started back in 2018. I did it every week, religiously, once a week, even if I didn't feel like it. Every week, I've not missed a week since 2018. And now it's in 30 different countries. Like, listener, like I didn't even realize how outreach. And then I have people coming up to me like, so I live in a building and my doorman's like, I listened to your podcast. I'm like, you don't even know who I am. Like, there's like things like that. You don't know who's listening and you don't know what impact you really are having. So don't get discouraged by, doing the consistent action and not seeing the results, because they will come. It's like planting seeds. And I know that's the most frustrating thing to hear when you're in it. It is, because when people used to tell me that, I'd be like, but it's not working, but I was just saying, it's going to work. Keep doing it. So, and get that, of course.
Wow. That's good advice. That is good advice. I love it. Consistency is so important. I think sometimes we look for that instant gratification. We do that post and it was super long and heartfelt, and then we get rejected. And it's like, see, I don't have what it takes. There goes that mindset check, choking you out again. And, I was going somewhere with that. Dang it, come back, Daryl. It's fine. It wasn't meant to be said.
Well, I'll say this, like it's a mindset thing, but it's also an embodiment thing, right? And this is what I teach my clients too. It's like the universe, God, Buddha, whatever you believe in, it's like a big yes button. This is what my coach says. And you have to align with the yes, right? The universe always wants you to win. So it's like, how can you align your body? Like, and sometimes like just maybe you're so in your head that you just need to go outside for like 2 minutes and get a breath of fresh air. Or maybe you have to put on a song on YouTube and dance in your kitchen, right? So I think it's also about the embodiment, like also getting out of your own head and doing that pattern interrupt and really embodying the feeling of when you have it, this is how I'm going to feel, because then it helps the energy and it helps the vibration. Because, right now there's another thing my coach says too. It's like right in this moment right now, if you put like your hand over your heart and saying, are all my needs met right now? Like right in this moment. Doesn't matter if you have, a past, cable bill that's due or rent's past due 2 months, like right now in this moment, I am sitting here watching this. I'm good. I feel, I'm alive. Like I can see, I can hear, or, whatever else you have. Right. So also that will also get you out of that mindset, that negative mindset. So any way that you can pattern interrupt yourself is so helpful.
Love it. Listen, this is going by so fast. Guys, if you're getting value from this, like whether you're watching now or watching the replay, make sure you go follow her, like stalk her, download her freebies, join her Facebook group, like watch all her media interviews and leave reviews, listen to the podcast, join the After 5, like just do this, like everything, because this is amazing and you're adding tremendous value to our community. I want to start to land this plane here because I know people have short attention spans and we're almost to the 40-minute mark. What do you want your legacy to be?
That's such a good question. I want my legacy to be that, like, I am just used up in all capacities and all my talents and my gifts that God, universe, has given me, that I put them to work and that I help other people. and I bring people up with me along in the journey. So whatever way that looks like, I'm really unattached, but I have a niece who's 2 years old. So, I really want to create change, be an advocate, and just leave the world in a better state than how I came in it. So
Love it. Well, you're doing that work, and I want to thank you. Any last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with before we tell them how to connect with you?
Yeah, I would say, I always say this is like, if there's some idea on your heart, in your head, you are meant to do that because you wouldn't have that divine download. And when things are tough, because they will be tough, I've many times on my knees, praying to God, calling a prayer line, because there's prayer lines out there that you can pray with someone. Just know that's like your next level of upgrading, and up leveling. So it's kind of like that bow and arrow, the arrow gets pulled back and then it shoots. So just know that if you're in that space of, struggling or anything, your breakthrough is going to come. So
love it. Love it. All right. So where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, just kellylynnadams.com. And I'm on the same handle on all social media channels.
Boom. There it is on the screen. Boom. There's the social media. Boom. There it is again. Yes. Thank you so much. And guys, okay, listen, thank you for watching. This is going to live on our replay. Make sure you subscribe, visit Second Chance Athletes, download all of our stuff, join our email newsletter. We've got some amazing guests coming up. We're going to be talking to Megan Murphy, like global influencer, all things awesome. She's got the same long bio that Kelly has, but she's tremendously amazing. And we were supposed to interview her last week, but something happened. It was my fault. And now we're going to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Yeah. And then we're also interviewing tomorrow Brian Pruitt, who's a former All-American running back. And he has an organization, Power of Dad. I mean, phenomenal international speaker. Like, you guys are going to love both of those guests. So make sure you come back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. And I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and connect with us. Kelly, you said some really inspiring, heartfelt words at the end, and I just want to echo those. And I want to agree with you and tell people that are watching that you do have what it takes, and those ideas in your head will come to pass. And it is the hardest right before the breakthrough. And so don't quit. Don't give up. I've been there. I've been squoze to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I am a 3-time suicide survivor, and that's just the real serious attempts. That's not even the little mini attempts that I was making consistently for weeks on end. So take it from somebody who's living the life that I tried to end, that your life matters, that there's purpose beyond the pain, that pain is only temporary, storms don't last always, and make sure you hang in there because you're going to win, because you're not going to quit. So that's my motivational tidbit for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.